Greetings, everyone. Today, I'm going to begin with the introduction to my updated version of the 7-star islands of Avalon. I created a video on this some years ago, but the technology was not as good, and I just have more to add to it this time, I feel, in energy, expression, visuals, and also additional material. This original material was written and received by me and written in 1998, and it's in the Grail issue of Temple Doors. And so this is the intro, and I'm going to introduce it to you. The 7 Isles of Avalon were in the British Isles in the vicinity of Glastonbury, before the water was held back from the sea and drained off the land. It is acknowledged by myth historians of today that these 7 islands duplicate the approximate pattern of the 7 stars in the Great Bear constellation upon the land. These isles were sacred to the Druids of the White Star. They were also the location of 7 holy orders and their attendant mystery schools, each holding a specific vibration which they maintained for the whole of the Avalonic realm. These holy orders and mystery schools were positioned both in the real-time world and in the other world of Avalon. Initiates of these orders and schools entered them first from this world. When they had reached a certain point of attainment in their service and instruction, they were then allowed to move beyond the veil into the Avalonic inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies. They were also the location of 7 holy orders and their attendant mystery schools, each holding a specific vibration which they maintained for the whole of the Avalonic realm. These holy orders and mystery schools were positioned both in the real-time world and in the other world of Avalon. Initiates of these orders' schools entered them first from this world. When they had reached a certain point of attainment in their service and instruction, they were then allowed to move beyond the veil into the Avalonic inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies. In the age when Avalon found its portal into this reality through the 7-star islands, the names these islands had and their zodiacal correlatives are given as follows. Now I give first the name of the island as I received it from its most ancient name in the Akasha. And the second name I give is the Christian version from the old Christian myths of these islands. These 7 islands. So the first is Vahara, Beccari, Virgo. Then Iovia, Godni, Taurus. Cathada, Martensea, Pisces. Carbonell, Mir, Gemini. Penacum, Panvoro, Leo. Thursia, Andrewsea, Sagittarius. And lastly, Armaga, the Crystal Isle, Aquarius. In New Light on the Ancient Myth of Glastonbury by John Mitchell, it states, and I quote, "The relevance of this constellation of island sanctuaries to the history and mythology of Glastonbury is immediately apparent. From very early times, the Great Bear had been associated with King Arthur. Welsh scholars derive Arthur's name from Arthur." Honestly, that's what it says, the Great Bear, and he is also associated with Arcticus, the bright star in the northern hemisphere, whose position in the sky is indicated by the last 2 stars in the tail of the Great Bear. Arcticus in Greek means the keeper of the bear. End of quote. One form of outsider interaction with the 7 orders of AVALON came from the pilgrims. It was not uncommon in pre- and early Christian days for a small number of seekers to take the Grail path, which incorporated a visit to specific way stations on all 7 of the star islands. The pilgrims would find a little chapel on each isle dedicated to that particular station of the Grail mystery and bearing the Ogham letters of the order of that particular star island. Now, most of this which I'm reading, almost all of it except for just a few pieces, is not acknowledged in known mythology or history. This has been received directly from me through the Thoth Akasha. It is acknowledged that there were some islands and that they went by the name of Beckery, Godney, Martensea Mere, Panaboro, Andrasey, and Crystal Isle, and that they were considered holy. I think that's probably all, or just about all, that we have left in the current knowledge of them. So I continue here. As the pilgrims meditated and sometimes fasted in these Grail chapels, staying in the simple hermitages provided nearby, they communed with the Avalonic realm, which was so close and yet so far. On occasion, through extreme dedication and perseverance, they would find themselves in Avalon, having crossed the threshold, if but for only a brief period. Yet because time registers differently in the 2 realms, they could be gone only moments in real time, and yet have spent several weeks or months in Avalon. Because these islands were not large, it was necessary to the spiritual conductivity of the land that they remain relatively pristine in their natural environment. The number of pilgrims allowed to cross the marshy passageways to them was limited in number. Since only the truest seekers wished to embark upon the Grail path, that created no problem anyway. This reluctance was not due to any difficulties of the pilgrimage, but because of the superstitions among the common folk in regard to the other world. There was a system of barges and other vessels established for transportation to the Star Islands and into Avalon. Magical spiritual veils, energy shields, were placed around the islands, even in the real-time world, to keep trespassers at bay. If one tried to access these islands without permission from the Avalonic Council or Kor Adanan, which was composed of members from each order, they would almost surely become disoriented and lose their way. It is important at this juncture to realize that there were quite a few other islands in this chain as well, which were not doorways into Avalon. Traffic among these islands went on in the usual way. It was as if the 7 star islands did not exist, except to the higher consciousness of mankind. To write about or discuss Avalon and its star islands and orders in a straightforward manner was considered taboo. Such things were of spirit and magic, and when communicated at all, they were cloaked in myth and allegory. There were 2 forms of Star Island barges, the Hagor and the Kumaharag. The Hagor took the pilgrims and sublates to their real-time destinations and back through the protective shields. The Kumaharag, these grand ships, traveled into Avalon and beyond into the world of fairy, which was closely linked to the Avalonic realm. The fairy realm moved to and fro like reeds in a marsh, with Avalon and the 7 sacred orders therein. This was especially so in the earlier pre-Christian days. Those who poled the Hagor barges were a small tribe of people whose origins were a mixture of human and elfin fairy. They were known by many names, yet they called themselves no name other than the Old People, or Hutuyum. The Kumaharg were navigated by Tuatha De Danann, a tall blonde race of human fairy whose human origins contained Atlantean and Hyperborean Syrian genetics. These vessels were sometimes barge-like, but more often resembled small ships with prows containing the carved forms of various otherworld beings. This was how it was in those ancient days after the great deluge which sank Atlantis, and on into the earliest period of the Christian era. As the etheric vibrational level of the planet continued to plummet, this doorway was finally sealed. The seven-star island holy orders still exist within Avalon, but cannot now pass through the gate into this world. When we think of the Grail as an object, we think of the cup from which Yeshua the Christ drank at the Last Supper. The record of Thoth confirms that such a cup exists and is within a vault underneath Glastonbury. Yet even more Grail Cups are in existence. There was a Grail Cup for each holy order of the seven-star islands of Avalon, created long before the birth of the Christed Master Yeshua. The round table of King Arthur was a facsimile, though not identical, of the table of Kamal, the round table about which the Avalonic Council or Kor Adanan gathered during session. At these special times, they brought the 7 Grail Cups of Avalon together for sacred ceremony. This pattern of gathering with the sacred cups can be traced back to the Mobad round table of Atlantis in Ruta within the star Halak, and this would be referring to the Lord Melchizedek initiates in the generational Grail blood path, another article I wrote, and also I believe I have it in the Grail video that I did about 1.5 years ago. All of the 7 cups of Avalon still remain intact today and are awaiting unity once again. Herein is given the names of these 7-star islands of Avalon, which were in use in the age when Avalon was anchored into this reality through them. Also is given the correlative astrological sign for each island, the symbolic totemic name, the holy order present on each, the Grail Station Chapel, and the Grail Cup used by the holy orders on that isle. And so for this video presentation, each one of these will be profiled. And also I'm going to give a little extra material for each, possibly a sort of an activational passage through into that point in Avalon.